Shalom, shalom, shalom. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, which is to say in the Paleo Hebrew, also known as the Lashawan Quadash, Yahweh, which is the name of our Heavenly Father, meaning He is, Bahashem, meaning in the name, Yahweh Shai, meaning He is our salvation. And that is who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, a so-called black man. Okay? Now, what you have on the screen here is a man that goes by the name of Billy Carson. And he, along with another guy that goes by the name of Wes, had a debate some time ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And he just got, manhandled, okay? And he's going to lay out the premises that he used in order to, debunk or discredit the Bible, okay? So we're going to let this play, and we're going to give feedback afterwards according to scriptures, okay? And this is fair use for educational purposes only, all right? So let's let it play.
Let's break down why this debate was so damaging to Billy's credibility and his claims about Christianity. So the debate started off with Billy's argument that Jesus was never crucified, which, of course, if true, that means that Christianity is false. And here's the evidence that he gave in support of his claim.
In my videos, and if you listen to the podcast, the statement is according to the Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible. That Bible predates the King James Version of the Bible. And the text there actually is about 12 to 14,000 differences between the Sinai Bible and the King James Version of the Bible, which came much later. And then also...
Now this is Wes Huff on the right, which presumably seems to be a Edomite, but could be a Jake. And then you have Billy Carson on the left, the so-called black man that is questioning the Bible validity, okay?
One of the things that were interesting is that they discovered the book of Jesus' wife, which is at the Harvard Seminary, which... according to some scholars, that's a little controversial, but they claim that this is an accurate record that Jesus may have even been married, which then, adds more, if that's true, it adds more to the hypothesis that maybe he wasn't crucified.
So basically he's saying that this alleged Sinai Bible doesn't claim that Jesus was crucified and that it predates the King James Version of the Bible. And by the way, on a little side note, there's no such thing as a King James manuscript. Like the other translations, the King James Version is just based on the biblical manuscripts that were found. And in addition to the evidence that Billy provided against the crucifixion of Jesus, Billy also says that we discovered the book of Jesus' wife, which he claims shows that Jesus might have been married. Now, I addressed these claims in another video I did on Billy a few months ago, but listen to how Wes responded.
When you say the Sinai Bible, what are you referring to specifically?
It's the biblical text that was written that made it into you can actually look it up on Amazon. It's a Bible I have a version at home. It's called the Sinai Bible, right, from Mount Sinai. I'm assuming that's the mountain that they're referencing there. But they put together their own version of the biblical text prior to the King James Version being put out.
Sure. So when you refer to the Sinai Bible, would you be referring to Codex Sinaiticus? Like the codex that comes... Okay.
So the reason why Wes is asking him this is because there's no such thing as the Sinai Bible, apart from a title that someone on Amazon gave it for a copy of it that they were selling. But that book only contains the Codex Sinaiticus, which is really bad news for Billy, because as Wes makes very clear...
So I work with manuscripts in my linguistic work. I'm an expert on early Christian scribal culture, and particularly in Greek and Coptic manuscripts. I actually have a facsimile, so I have a photocopy that was done by the British Library of Codex Sinaiticus that I work with in my office. So I have it here, and the Codex Sinaiticus in particular is just it's a 4th century Greek manuscript. Mm-hmm. It comes from approximately between 325 and 350 AD, and its text of the Gospels reads almost identical to the modern Greek text that we develop translations from.
Yikes. So Wes actually has the manuscript that Billy's referring to in his office, and he studies this for a living. But even more devastating,
when you say that it denies the crucifixion or that the crucifixion isn't there, I mean, I can go on right now, Codex Sinaiticus, and I can look up the end of, say, Matthew 27, where it has Jesus being crucified, and that's in Codex Sinaiticus, or, the John 19, or any of the other ones. So actually, are you able to pull up a website with the viewers or listeners or whatever, be able to see that?
Right now to make sure I have the version that I'm looking for.
All right, now, if it isn't clear by now, this is devastating for Billy's credibility. Billy has ran with this claim for years until Wes decides to ask Billy to pull it up online so that way they can verify it together, and then Billy says that he wants to make sure he has the right version. But I'm not even sure what he means by right version, because there's only one version, the one that Billy has referred to countless times over the last few years. And by the way, you don't have to take Wes's word for it. You can go to codexsinaiticus.org right now to view it yourself. And if you do, you'll find that it's virtually exact to the Bible that we have today, which is why you won't find a single scholar on the planet that agrees with Billy or has any idea what he's talking about here. So now that Billy is really in the hot seat, let's hear how he responds.
The text where I was referencing, actually, I was misquoted. I misquoted there. It's the Gospel of Barnabas.
Okay, now, let's be charitable. So it is certainly possible that he could have misquoted the reference. The only problem is this isn't the first time that he said this, and he even said it at the beginning of the debate.
In my videos, and if you listen to the podcast, the statement is according to the Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible.
And he's made this exact claim in almost every major podcast interview that he's been on. But if he really did misquote his reference, then we would expect for him to quote the Sinai Bible or the Book of Barnabas when he makes the argument against the crucifixion. So given this, I can't make sense of why he usually quotes them both as evidence that the crucifixion never happened.
I give you one big translation that's off, is they say, Jesus was crucified.
Whoa.
Well, that doesn't exist in the Sinai Bible.
What happened?
It doesn't exist in the Book of Barnabas.
So if I was a fan of Billy, then I would be pretty concerned that prior to this, he hasn't had a debate where someone can challenge him on his claims. And the first time that he was challenged, he basically admits that he was wrong. And this shows that he's been undeniably misleading people with this claim. But I'm sure that we could all overlook this mistake if the point about the Book of Barnabas still stands, right? Well, let's see what Wes has to say about this claim.
The Gospel of Barnabas is a really interesting document because it is a known forgery. It shows no actual indication of evidence of coming from or even having knowledge of first century Jewish understanding. And I think a bigger problem is that the Gospel of Barnabas actually paraphrases Dante's Inferno. Never mind the fact that we don't have any evidence of it prior to the 14th century. And none in any other language other than Middle Age Italian Italian and Spanish.
Okay, now what Wes said there was incredibly important because the first piece of evidence that Billy gave in support of his claim that Jesus was never crucified was based on the claim that these books came before the King James Bible and didn't include the crucifixion. But the actual biblical texts that our Bibles are based on, they reference the crucifixion and go back to the 2nd century. So that means it's impossible for Billy to be correct about this since he cites the Sinai Bible that goes back to the 4th century and does reference the crucifixion. And the Book of Barnabas is more than 1,000 years later than the biblical manuscripts that we have, and it wasn't even written in Greek, but instead Italian and Spanish, and, by the way, it was a proven forgery. So now that Billy's back is up against the wall once again with facts that refute his claim, let's hear what Billy has to say for himself.
It's a known forgery. I mean, no one's referring to the Gospel of Barnabas as anything other than...
If you say it's a known forgery, yes, but I'm going to go with that. Let's talk about the Old Testament a little bit.
Wait, so his response was, if you say it's a forgery, I'm going to go with that? Now, if Billy really is
one of the foremost world leader in the knowledge on ancient texts and tablets, scriptures, papyruses, and cylinders,
then we would expect to at least hear some response to what Wes said, since Billy's claims about Christianity quite literally depend on those facts being wrong. But sadly, it seems that Billy didn't have a response to the facts that Wes pointed out. He instead tried to move to the Old Testament, but Wes wasn't going to let him off the hook that easily. He wanted to make sure that they first discussed Billy's final piece of evidence that he gave in support of his claim, and that evidence was Jesus had a wife.
If you say it's a known forgery, yes, but I'm going to go with that. Let's talk about the Old Testament a little bit, leading up into the New Testament.
Hold on, because do you mind if I address the Gospel of Jesus' wife?
Sure, go ahead.
What was her name?
Yeah,
I'm like trying to write notes like I know what I'm doing, but I'm just curious.
So the gospel of Jesus' wife doesn't actually mention. So oftentimes what happens is that the text of the gospel of Jesus' wife is kind of paralleled with the gospel of Philip, which mentions that that Jesus would kiss Mary Magdalene on the mouth. The reason we know it's also not legitimate is because we can tie it directly to not copying from an ancient text, but actually copying from an online version of the Gospel of Thomas in a PDF form. And the mistake on that PDF form was copied into the text that was borrowed in the phraseology of Jesus' wife.
All right, so what Wes is saying here, it's some sort of claim that's hard to verify. You literally can't Google Jesus' wife without seeing tons of articles explaining exactly how all of this went down. This alleged inscription about Jesus' wife wasn't copied from an ancient text, but instead from a modern PDF of the Gospel of Thomas that had an error in it, and the forger accidentally copied the same error. So it's true that Harvard was initially fooled into believing that it was legit, only later to clarify that it was a forgery due to the reasons that Wes brought up. So unless Billy literally doesn't do any research, there's no doubt in my mind that Billy's aware of these facts. So the real question is, how is he going to refute these facts and respond to the claims?
I don't know anybody in the field of papyrology, paleography, historiography, who actually refers to these documents as being legitimate.
That's fair enough. I can respect that. So let's go into the Old Testament a little bit.
So once again, Billy has no rebuttal and is trying to pivot to the Old Testament, despite him going on every major podcast telling people that this is evidence that Jesus had a wife. And just so we're all on the same page here, at this point, Billy has given 3 arguments to undermine the credibility of the Bible and the faith of Christians. His first argument was that the Sinai Bible doesn't mention that Jesus was crucified and that it came before the King James Version. But in reality, not only is there no such thing as the Sinai Bible, the codex that he's referring to does mention the crucifixion and is virtually exact with the Bible that we have today. The second piece of evidence that he gave was for the book of Barnabas, which was written in Spanish and dated well over 1,000 years later than the biblical manuscripts that we have currently. And lastly, he appeals to the gospel of Jesus' wife, which was actually just a small fragment that was a proven forgery. And to make matters worse, Billy didn't have a sufficient rebuttal to any of these claims. So at this point in the debate, Wes has successfully refuted every claim that Billy made with facts that anyone watching this video can easily go verify. So now we're all starting to see why Billy worked so hard to keep this video off of the internet. But after having all of his claims on the New Testament utterly demolished, Billy once again tries to pivot the conversation to a place where he seems to feel more confident in his research, the Old Testament.
That's fair enough. I can respect that. So let's go into the Old Testament a little bit. Predominantly, from my research, I discovered that a lot of information from the Enuma Elish and the 7 tablets of creation is a lot of in Genesis, a lot of the creation story that comes into Genesis. Not all of it, but because obviously Genesis is a much smaller version of a much bigger story. But it's literally almost word for word from the Enuma Elish.
So Billy's basic argument here is that the Old Testament, particularly Genesis, was copied from other ancient texts, and he says that the Genesis creation account
It's literally almost word for word from the Enuma Elish.
Which is an insane claim to anyone who's read both, which is why Wes decides to ask Billy if he's read it before making a really smart move.
Have you read the Enuma Elish?
Yeah, I've done lectures.
Sure. Do you mind summarizing the content of the creation account in the Enuma Elish for us?
Now, this was actually a really smart move from Wes, because if you've ever read the creation account in Genesis 1 and 2, I want you to tell me.
All right, there you have it. Enough said, okay? This guy, Billy Carson, uses a lot of books to try to back up his bold claims that the Bible is predated by a Bible by the name of Sinai, and that the book of Barnabas is legit, and that, Jesus had a wife, okay? So be careful, especially with hucksters like these, because they selling you something that they don't have any idea on what they're talking about, all right? So let's go and get a few precepts. All right, we are in the book of Ecclesiastes, and we're going to go over to chapter 12 and down to verse 12. It says, "And further, by these, my son, be admonished, of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh." You see? And that's what our dear old pal Billy Carson doesn't understand, man. Okay, he's been put in the trick bag, all right? He's studied so much to now that he's weary in the flesh, okay? He went down that proverbial rabbit hole, all right? He took the bait on something that he came across or heard on the internet, more than likely, from somebody else that was going up against the Bible, and he ran with it, okay? Or he just tried to do his own thing and come up against the Bible for what? For filthy lucre's sake, okay? Because he know our people are simple, man, okay? If there's any way that he can provide the people, speaking of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, a way to be more rebellious and buck up against the word and sound intelligent about it, he's going to do it, all right? That's why he has that book that he calls the Bible Sinai that was found out to be not accurate, not even a real Bible. And the Bible that it based its information on was the Codex, what was it? The Codex Codex something that was found out to be based on the Holy Bible, man. Okay? And then what else? He went into the book of Barnabas to prove that, you know, who they called Jesus, you know, wasn't crucified, and found out that that was a forgery as well, okay? And then he tried to go and prove that Jesus had a wife, all right? So beware of people that, you know, have all these books that don't in line with the Holy Bible, man. Because it tells us in Isaiah, the what? Is that 34? 16? It reads, seek ye out of the book of Yahweh, which is the Holy Bible, and read. That's it. It's plain and simple, man. You go off into your own tangent and then you start putting books together and pairing them up and coming against what the word says, saying that Jesus had a wife or he wasn't crucified or this and that. He had a son. You know, you're going to become weary in the flesh, man, because you're going to try to prove this source to be right, that source to be right, and all while making a mockery and a fool of yourself, okay? So it says, seek ye out of the book of Yahweh and read. No one of these shall fail. Right? These prophecies are all going to come to pass, all right? That's what separates the Holy Bible from the rest of these, you know, inferior books, man. They don't have no prophecy, man, all right? Why would the Bible, the superior book of all, want to pair up and mate with inferior books that hold no validity or no prophecy of anything? They're all dead, man. They have no living water, all right? They have no life in them. They're all dead books, man, okay? And this guy got put to shame by an alleged, you know, so-called white person, man, okay? It says, seek ye out of the book of Yahweh and read. No one of these shall fail. None shall want her mate, for my mouth it have commanded, and his spirit it have gathered them. Right. All these books were gathered by the spirit of what? Yahweh, the Holy Spirit, man. He put them on righteous men to write. Okay. He put the Holy Spirit upon righteous men to write these words, man. And no one of them should fail. All of these prophecies are going to come to pass. Okay. And that's what our buddy boy Billy Carson doesn't understand. Or maybe he does understand, but he's just trying to make a name for himself by coming up against the Holy Bible. And there have been many that tried that route, and they all have failed, man. Okay? They all have failed, okay? Just look at what's that guy that's sitting up in somewhere in incarcerated right now? What is his name? Brother Polite, okay? What did he do? He tried to come up against the Holy Bible, all right? He even took it to the extent where he and another guy shot up the Bible with a firearm, man, okay? And look where he's at, locked up somewhere, okay? For accusing the apostles and elders of what? Of, the word. Young women. Okay, and look at him. He's in that same predicament for doing what he accused the apostles of doing. Okay? So guess what? You cannot come up against this word, man. All right? So it says, seek ye out of the book of Yahweh and read. No one of these shall fail. None shall want her mate, for my mouth it have commanded, and his spirit it have gathered them. Right? This is all done by the will of the Heavenly Father. All right? And what does it say? Let's go there. I believe that's the book of Acts, chapter 5. And we'll just we'll just jump straight to the point. Acts 5:39, it says, but if it be of the Most High, ye cannot overthrow it, lest happily ye be found even to fight against the Most High. Right. So if this counsel be of the Most High, which the Holy Bible is, you cannot what? Fight it, lest you be found even to fight against the Most High. And that's a losing battle, man. Okay. That's why the Most High put this man to shame, okay? Allowed him to think all of these thoughts and go on all of these talk shows, these podcasts, and propagate this vomit on the airways, all to have him set up for a later time to get dismantled, man, by what looks to be a so-called white man, all right? And then he tried to go to this man's house to get the footage from being aired, and that he couldn't. Now he's pursuing a civil lawsuit, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? So he got dismantled, man. All right? So trying to come up against the Most High, man, and discredit his word is futile. All right? Let's go up a verse and read that in verse 38. And now I say unto you, refrain from these men, and let them alone. For if this counsel or this work be of man, it will come to naught. And that's what Billy Carson has finally realized, or maybe he hasn't. He needs to be humbled more, okay? His work is of man, okay? The Barnabas, that's not inspired by the Holy Spirit, or else it would have been put in the canon, the gospel, okay? Sinai, that Bible is found to be a forgery, that somebody put on Amazon just to make a few dollars, which is found to be false, okay? And this other claim of Jesus having a wife, all right? There's nowhere in the Bible that says he had a wife, all right? In the scriptures that they allude to, of Mary Magdalene is, misinterpreted, okay? And let's say if who they call Jesus did have a wife, what does that change the outcome? You saying because he had a wife, he didn't want to get crucified? Come on, man. See, that's why you have to stick to the scriptures that's inspired by the Holy Spirit that Yahweh put on man's, okay? I believe that's Psalms 68. This is Psalm 68 and verse 11. It reads, the Lord gave the word. Great was the company of those that published it. Right? So the Lord gave the word, man. He put the spirit on these men to publish these words. To what? To the extent that they will come to pass, okay? No one of these should fail, man. All right? This Bible is the superior of all books, man. It doesn't need any other books to try to prove it right or discredit it. Okay? It just doesn't. Okay? So let's go back to Ecclesiastes 12 and pick back up at verses 12. It says, and further, by these, my son, be admonished. Of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. Weariness of the flesh, right? And our friend, our dear pal, our buddy old pal, Billy Carson, man, he's been hit with that demon, man. Okay? That deep demon. Want to dive into all different types of books, think, and see, he doesn't understand, man, okay? And there's many more like him, especially in the so-called conscience community, all right, that try to disprove the Bible. That's the same community that Polite came from, that conscious community, man. And they don't have any light in them whatsoever. They're not conscious at all, man. They're all sleeping dogs, okay, that cannot bark, all right? So it goes on to read, verse 13, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Most High and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man, all right? So it's made plain and simple, man, okay? The job that we're supposed to be doing was already laid out for us from the beginning, man. Not trying to go and, get deep and find these other books that aren't inspired by a holy man and what? Try to discredit or disprove the Holy Bible? No, we're supposed to be trying to keep these commandments to the best of our abilities, understanding that breaking them is what landed us in the position that we in, okay? So our mission has already been set out from us from the beginning, okay? But hey, not all of Israel is of Israel, okay? They're not all gonna get it on this side. They've been, given that strong delusion, all right? So let's go to Titus 3 and just straight to the point. This is Titus 3 and 9. It says, but avoid foolish questions and genealogies. Did Jesus have a wife? Was he married? You see? It says, but avoid foolish questions. Because what are you looking to achieve by showing that he had a wife? That the Bible left out something? That the Most High didn't put this in the Bible? That now the Bible is incomplete? See? Avoid those type of questions, man. All right? It says, but avoid foolish questions and genealogies and contentions and strivings about the law. Right. Oh, who you call Jesus didn't die on the cross. He wasn't crucified. So what are you alluding to? He lived a long, fulfilling life, and he, never was crucified. Therefore, he never died for the nation of Israel. Therefore, he never existed. You see? Be careful of these type of foolish questions and genealogies and all type of, contentions. It says, for they are unprofitable in vain. Right. That's basically what they are. No, that is what they are. They are unprofitable in vain. Okay? Because why? We have everything we need for salvation in the Holy Bible, man. Okay? The book of Enoch, that shit's fake. All right? The Bible doesn't speak of a book of Enoch. It speaks of a man Enoch, but not of a book of Enoch. Okay? So we got all what we need here in the commandments in the Holy Bible to get the job done. Okay? If we needed more, guess what? Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah would have gave us more. But he gave us enough to get to the end, to endure to the end. We have enough in the Holy Bible from the beginning to the end and everything in between to make it to the end, okay? That's the Old Testament, that's the Apocrypha, and the New Testament. That's plenty enough to make it to the end, okay? We don't need no gospel of Barnabas. We don't need to look into a Bible by the name of Sinai. We don't need to go into alternative sources to find out whether or not Jesus had a wife. We don't need any of that, okay? We got just enough what we need, okay? Any more will be uncivilized, all right? We'll get everything we need in the kingdom plus more, all right? We just got to make it to the end, okay? So let's go to Romans 1 and start at verse 22. This is Romans 1 and 22. It reads, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, right? And this man ran all on the internet, on Joe Rogan podcasts, on other people's podcasts, professing to be wise. You know, Jesus wasn't crucified. you know, and these podcasters, man, they look at him like a fool, but they don't want to say it because they looking to get their numbers up. Yeah, bring the fool on, man. We could use an extra million views, okay? Let him come spew his vomit, and we're going to get, you know, millions upon millions of views and get paid by these, you know, what do you call them? Get paid by these advertisers, you know, and we're going to make money off of this fool, man. All right? So he said what? Romans 1:22, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. He got discredited all in one outtake, okay? All by, you know, alleged historian, okay? That can actually go into, you know, proven facts and state the obvious that he couldn't, man, okay? It says, and change the glory of the uncorruptible power into the image made like the corruptible man. Right. So he tried to go in and say that there was, you know, as the video was going on, and I cut it short, he was going into the book of Genesis trying to show that there's other, you know, other nations that had stories similar to the flood. All right. No shit, Sherlock. All right. Of course, there's going to have other nations, man. Okay, because why? They were all impacted as well by the flood, man. Okay. Noah had what? 3 sons, I believe. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay, they all going to have their account of the flood, man. Okay. That doesn't discredit the account that the Holy Bible has. All right. And somehow to believe that the Holy Bible copied the flood from other accounts. No. Okay? That's why you have to be careful and be very selective on who you listen to. All right? Especially if they're not coming out of thus saith the Lord, man. They're just going by their own vain opinion. So it says, and change the glory of the uncorruptible power into an image made like the corruptible man, and to birds and 4-footed beasts and creeping things. Right. They'll tell you, well, the god of Egypt, the Anaka god or whatever, you know, well predates the God of the Holy Bible, man. Be careful of all that, man. All right? Be careful of that, man. Those are all deities, idols, okay? They have no power. What does the Most High say? He is the power of the living and not of the dead, man. Okay? All those Egyptian so-called gods, they're all gods of the dead, man. All right? They have no life in them. So be mindful of that, man. Okay? So that was just a quick, what's the word? A quick response or, opinion on that debate between Billy Carson and the other guy. What's his name? Wes Huff or whatever it is. So that was about it. Let's finish up and close out 1 Peter 5 and 8. This is the book of 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. It reads, be sober, be vigilant. Why? Because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. Just think about how many, of our people was actually, invested in this guy, Billy Carson, and believing that the Bible was not the original Bible. It was another Bible before it, that there was extra books in the Bible, like the book of Barnabas, and also that Jesus had a wife, man. All right? Trying to insinuate that the Bible is inferior, okay? Just think about how many more people bought into that, okay? A lot, man. Because just by nature, our people are sottish children, man. Anything that they can do to get a good laugh or entertainment, they gonna join without even thinking, man, okay? That's why they're gonna be the first ones to go, man, okay? When they get that chip, that's going to be their ass, man. That's going to be the end of their existence here on this side, okay? And rightfully so, man. We don't need those type of reprobates coming into the kingdom, man. All right? So be sober. Be vigilant, all right? You got to see a huckster when you see one. Somebody that's a snake oil salesman, man. Ain't selling you shit except for a bunch of fake ass oil, okay, to tell you everything is what it is and it isn't. And you got to be sober of those type of people, man. All right. And you know, he got exposed for exactly who he is, a fraud, man. All right. Because your adversary, the devil, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the so-called white man, but it is the so-called white man. It could be those that look like you, man, and me. All right. It could be people of melanated, what they call quote unquote melanated beings. All right. It could be the woman. Okay. It's the adversary. It's the devil. The devil is a deceiver, a false accuser. All right. And this guy, Billy Carson, false accused the Holy Bible, man. So it says, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. And he probably devoured a whole collage of people that were on the edge on whether or not do they believe the Holy Bible or not. And with a guy like Billy Carson and his notoriety and his fame, however long it lasted, going on these podcasts with these outlandish claims, it probably swayed them to the side to believe that the Bible isn't real, which all goes to prove the more that they weren't part of the elect from the beginning. Okay? So be sober, all right? Be vigilant, because they're going to have more of these hucksters in these last days, man, trying to sway those that, you know, aren't sure on which way to go, one way or the other, right? But it's ultimately Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai sifting through the undesirables, okay? Those who he want from those who he don't want, okay? Those who he want is going to see right through this bullshit. And those who he don't, they're going to fall for it, okay? Plain and simple. So it says, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour, all right? He's going to get his fair share, all right? But not of the elect, all right? So with that being said, pray someone was edified through this lesson. And until the next time, if it be the Lord's will, stay strong, stay in the faith. We almost home. Shalom. Peace.